Hello folks, I hope you're ready to go and ready to do this green tree. This was Viridian green and a little white, but we need to make it greener. So particularly on this left hand side here, so we'll just bring in a little bit more Viridian into the colour. And we'll just let those little bits that we've put on there act as highlights. Not often we put the highlight on first, is it? But a wonderful example of where that's happened. And I'm going to just creep down with something darker in this bottom area here. We could swing that towards a little plain grey. We want to get this quite dark in this area here because there would be a lot of shadow thrown in this area. Bring it down a little bit here, and that's about all we need. Now behind the house itself there is the head of a tree coming up over the building, and I'm just going to put this paint to the side for a moment, and the Viridian green, and I'm going to take a little bit of this olive green, but we may have to resort to a little chrome orange and Payne's grey, which of course, as you probably all know, is my favourite green, chrome orange and Payne's grey. The great advantage of chrome orange and Payne's grey is, as you've heard me say many times before, you're able to change the tonal value and control the tonal value with it. But we'll run this little bit of the olive green. You notice the olive green is very translucent. That's the problem with it. Could be used, it would be a very nice highlight towards the edge, but it's a little translucent for this situation here. So we'll just use this guy here, the chrome orange and Payne's grey, get a few branches hanging out. This is a problem that we often have to help people with in a workshop. When they run foliage in like this, they get one big ball. A lot of people have a lot of difficulty in getting these little branches coming out. And with a little bit of perseverance and guidance, and that's certainly what they're given, a little bit of guidance, they overcome the problem very quickly. Now I'm mixing up a little bit of burnt sienna and yellow green, and I'm going to use that for highlight, and what a wonderful highlight it is. It's not too bright. It hasn't got that garish sort of look about it. And it just goes in like silk. You'll notice the paint is taking very well to this board because of the fact that I've got a little bit of medium on the board before I started. But how easy do you want it? I mean, it's just almost painting itself there. It's so easy. Now I'm going to take, we'll see how this pink looks. Run a little bit of pink up here in the form of a branch. You notice that I'm dragging the brush lengthways, and I've got the knuckle on this first finger as close to the board as I can get it. Now if you do that, you're dragging the hairs of the brush almost vertically. It wouldn't matter whether you're dragging them vertically or horizontally. You should still get a nice thin line, and I'm demonstrating there with the knuckle of this hand close to the board. You should get a line as thin as a hair there, whether it's vertical or horizontal, just simply by keeping the knuckle of this finger close to the board and holding the brush well back on the handle. And the brush is almost laying down on the board. It's at a very low angle. And that enables you to get these branches without any effort at all. Again, this is something that we cover very much in workshops, and we help those people that are having trouble with it. I make sure that you get the idea of it, and it's so easy. Now in this other one here, the greenish one, we could probably run a little bit of that pink up there also. It's not showing up quite as nicely as I would like it to, so we'll just go to a little bit of burnt sienna, and that's showing up better. But how easy is that? Just by holding the brush at the right angle, it just makes it so easy. All right. Now, I'm going to run yet another bush in this area here, coming over here, and in this particular case, I am going to use olive green, which is slightly translucent and a slightly different colour to the previous one, and we'll get a little bit hanging out on this guy too. We could have had just a tiny bit of orange mixed with that to make it even paler, but that's quite satisfactory what we've got there. And I'm going to highlight it with a tiny little bit of yellow ochre, just a tiny bit on the edge of it there. And again, I'm going to run up some little trunks. And again, this pink may be satisfactory. I always say maybe because you can change it to sort of suit yourself if you find that the highlight is, if you find that the colour you're using is either too dark or too light. And I'm going to run just a little bit more highlight across that. Now we do have, and it might have been easier for you to have run this in before we put those bushes in. We do have some little bushes way in the distance. Again, a little bit of this olive green could be used, and I'm going to run these guys in the distance along here. We could have just a little more depth towards the bottom of the bushes, and we'll run them behind these guys. It's about all we need, and the fact that they're finishing higher up will separate them from this other guy here. And I'm going to use just a little bit of pink on these blokes to highlight them. Now we can come along in this particular case. I have sharpened the end of this fan brush, and it's ideal for running little trunks up. And you can just run up a few little trunks in the distance, and then come along underneath and turn that little bit of excess paint that has come down below the horizon line, turn that little bit of excess paint into shadow underneath the trees. And you can come along with a tiny bit more yellow green paint and roughen this ground up a little bit to make it look as if it is in fact a field in the distance. Under this guy here we need to get a little bit of shadow, and underneath this bloke here make them look as if they're joined to the ground, and it's just magic how easy that is to do. Look at this, we just run this away here, smudge it away, flick up a little bit of grass, run this to nothing underneath here, and straight away it's starting to take on the appearance that it's joined to the ground. This needs to be darkened more under here, but it still needs to be smudged away whether it's darker or not. We need to get a bit of burnt umber or something like that underneath it. We could go to even a little bit of a bluish tonal value underneath it because it's throwing a lot of shadow, and shadows have a degree of blue in them. So we could use a little bit of blue and red, but we need something darker than that. And we could creep the tiniest bit of that in underneath here where the building is going to throw a lot of shadow. It looks a bit out of place just right now because we haven't got the building in, but when the building's in, it will certainly all come together. Now we're going to again go to a break in a couple of minutes, but we do need to determine where that road is, and we can just start off with a tiny little bit of grass in this area here, and this is a little bit of the Payne's grey and orange, and all I'm doing is shaping the road. I'm going to bring in a tiny bit of paint on the edge here and just gently shape the road with that paint. We'll come around here and back here, and we need to get lots of texture and ground agitation into the paint here, but slowly we're starting to form the road around here. Obviously we need to get a little bit more shadow running out from this grass here, and it makes it look as if it's joined to the ground. We'll come back with a little bit brighter colour shortly, but we're going to go to a break again, and then we'll come back and start working perhaps on the building. So I'll see you after the break again. Thank you.